So once you download your Cloudera Manager bin file and change its accessibility, and if you run that one, you are going to get this. So without you setting up the Cloudera Manager, you will not be able to set up the other services on the respective hosts. That is why we are going to set up this one. So I think most aspects, it is something like your next kind of thing only, not much different. Okay, you see that here. So what is happening?
Yeah.
As a part of your Cloudera Manager setup, what is happening?
Right now, it's telling JDK.
Absolutely, that's good. So JDK is getting set up, and then Cloudera Manager server is being downloaded and being set up. Then you have an embedded database. Here you have multiple options. You can set up an external. You can set up even external database. So embedded database. Once everything is over, you'll be seeing that one here. What is that? Log into Cloudera Manager with username and password. The default username and the password. There should be initial thing, right? To make it to be accessible. So your Cloudera Manager is accessible on the IP and the port 7180. 7180 is for your where you give. Let me connected. So you see here, Vladan, what is the username and the password? Admin.
Admin.
Yes.
Do you usually change the password and the username, or you leave it like that?
No, we change it. We change it. But to make
Yeah,
it
yeah.
accessible, but in the production mode, maybe for again, you also need to understand one more thing. That is how usually the landscape is going to be. So you will be having and then you have a dev cluster, and then you'll be having a production cluster. One second, Laden. So you'll be having a testing cluster, a development cluster, and a production cluster too. I mean, in the true real environment, but most cases you'll not be having these two. You'll be having only one cluster, both for development and testing, and then finally you'll be having the production cluster. That is the reason why I don't know whether you notice that anytime or not. When you use Hadoop, you also see a command called distcp. Have you noticed that one, Vladan? Distcp.
No, I didn't so far.
No?
No.
So that is called distributed copying. See, within the cluster, what you do? Within the cluster, you want to perform the operations. Within the cluster, you want to perform the operations, then you'll be having you want to copy the things, we have the commands, right? Hadoop fs hyphen cp or a copy from local, those kind of things you are already aware. So that is within the cluster. So you want to move or you want to do the activity across the clusters, like what I have shown you now. So Hadoop, there is something called distcp. You notice this one?
Yes.
Along with FS, Hadoop FS, ZAR and all those things, you have something called distcp, where you specify the source URL and the destination URL so that files can be copied from one cluster to the other cluster. And you may ask me one thing, Srinivas, why I need that one. Now I think you have understood. When I have my landscape, like for development and testing and production, if I have different clusters, Hadoop clusters, maybe my testing and development clusters will be of 5 node or 4 node. My production cluster is going to be ever growing. Okay, so I create these sample data sets and make them to be a part of my testing and development cluster so that I do my job and then move all my tested things onto the production cluster so that they can run comfortably on my production cluster. So when things needs to happen between these clusters, then I take that advantage. Hadoop distcp. I think you noticed here there's something called distcp. That is called distributed copying, where you can copy a file or directories recursively from the source URL to the destination URL. You may ask me one thing, what is the URL then? Source URL and destination URL. I think I've already shown you in the configuration file, that is core-site.xml file, that is default file system name. I think you remember what I mentioned that time in the core
Yes,
hyphen.
yes, I remember.
Yeah, that is called your URL. Okay, cluster URL. Okay. So once that is done and you got this, you have now this is the Cloudera manager. Once the Cloudera manager is available, okay, you'll be able to set up. You can see that one here. This is what you can have your cluster set up. You can have your cluster set up. You can see that here. Okay. You can add a service, start the cluster, stop the cluster, restart, deploy client configuration, upgrade the cluster, refresh, inspector inspecting the host, enable the Kerberos, that is security, client configuration URLs, data encryption can be set up. So all those things can be done on your cluster. Okay. Right?
Yes.
And you can see that here. So you can give whatever the name you like to your cluster. I've given cluster 1 here default name, but you can give whatever the name you want to your cluster. Okay. So you can give whatever the name. You can say here, you can rename the cluster even. Right? So let me see. What is this? You are seeing everything in green and you are seeing something in orange. That is the indication. Green, everything is okay. Orange, now there is some uh, a conflict or a stale configuration where we need to redeploy that one. You see that here, deploy client configuration. If something gets changed where redeployment is needed, if you do until you do the redeployment, that exception will not be done. You can see that now here. There is a concerning health issue. Okay. I'll show you now. Maybe in a minute or two, you will be noticing that even the Hive, which is having some stale configuration issues and all been set. So this we are, you notice that one, Vladan now?
Yeah, now it's green.
So that is how we do it. We take care. Okay.
So most of the time you do everything in Cloud Area Manager, like practically all graphical user interface.
Yeah. Not most, almost everything we do it because, of course,
Okay.
you can connect to the cluster using your terminal, like what we are doing here, using this one. You can do this. This is okay. But most of the operations we do it using Cloudera Manager. That is why we are setting up this one, and we are trying to deploy the Cloudera agents on all the hosts so that the metrics can be collected and shown it to you. What is a cluster IO, disk IO, CPU, network IO, HDFS IO, all these things, so that you can take actions against it, right? Rather than doing it using the command line. Though it is possible, but this is the most convenient and the efficient way to manage your cluster. Clear?
Yes.
Using this one, the beauty part is, Vladan, the beauty part of Cloudera Manager is you don't need multiple Cloudera managers we don't need multiple Cloudera managers to monitor and manage multiple clusters. The same Cloudera manager is sufficient to monitor and manage multiple clusters. I don't know whether you notice this or not here. You have an option called add cluster. What is the meaning of that? When I say add
You can
cluster, yes. You're right.
Yeah, you can add the whole cluster again. I mean, having multiple clusters just managing from one user interface.
Yeah, as I mentioned it here clearly, you may have a development cluster, testing cluster, and a production cluster. So all three can be managed using the single Cloudera Manager instance. If you are able to set up like that, right? So you can add the cluster, but while adding the cluster, you are going to give the details of the other cluster. Details of the other cluster, I mean, what is IP and all, what is the host and all. So it has got its own. Now we are seeing only one cluster here, but when you add multiple clusters, you'll be able to see even that. Right?
Yes.
So usually, what is expected to be done on a cluster, on a freshly set up cluster, the first thing that needs to be done is you are going to set up your Cloudera manager anyhow that is needed. After that is done, what is the next service that needs to be set up?
The Zookeeper.
Zookeeper. While learning, we are going to learn at the last, but while setting up, we are going to set up in the beginning. Zookeeper.
Is that the service that give us availability, right?
Exactly. To make your services highly available, we take the help
Yeah.
of Zookeeper service or server. To achieve high availability, we make use of Zookeeper. To achieve high availability, we make use of Zookeeper. So once the Zookeeper is been set up, what is the next thing?
Then we install name node on a master
Yes, install name
master
node
server.
on the master. Of course, install secondary name node on the master. Install resource manager on the master. Node manager, data node, and the MapReduce stuff you are going to install it on. So
Slave.
this plan needs to be there. This distribution of your things needs to be there. I think you see here, when I go to my, you see this one, have a close look at this one. Let me also increase its size. Have a close look at this one now, Laden. I mentioned it, all the stuff here. We have master 1, master 2, manager, data node 1, 2, 3, 4, edge node. You want, you can take a screenshot of this one and try to understand how the roles are being set up. I mean, roles in the sense like the services are being set up on the respective nodes. Have a look at this so that you understand, you get some understanding. Look at this one for a minute and try to understand what is being commonly set up on all the data nodes and what is being set up on your master 1, master 2, and your manager. And we'll have a discussion on it now. So on my master one, I have set up my name node. I think you noticed here, HDFS name node. And on my
Yes.
master 2, I have set up my resource manager. That is because ours is not a, we were talking about your daemons, what the daemons you have. We were talking about those daemons based on the initial Hadoop architecture to have better understanding. But with the yarn based, you take up any of the contemporary Hadoop clusters, all are being migrated to yarn. So in yarn based architectures, you see resource manager in the place of job tracker. But it doesn't mean that it will not support the legacy applications. It will support legacy applications because in yarn, your MapReduce is also included. So it will be able to support even the legacy applications. So no issue for that. So I have my resource manager set up on my master 2. I think you noticed here. I have set up my job history server and a Hue server. Hue server, I think you understand, is because of setting up Hue server only, you are using your Hue browser. Hue browser I have shown you, this is actually to the admin. This is actually whatever we are seeing now is a part of Hadoop administration. And you have one more thing that is called the Hue browser. I think you notice there. So this is Hue browser. I think you notice here. Oh, sorry. This is on my 111. I think you noticed here. It is on my master 2. My Hue server is running on master 2. That is 111. So you see here. Okay. This is called your Hue browser, where the developers are going to make use of this one to make their work done. So you have query editors there, Hive, Pig, your workflows, your Metastore manager, your HDFS browser that is called file browser, and your job browser. What are the jobs running on this one? And you can see that here. What are the jobs being executed? You see that one here. You understand what I'm saying? All
Yeah.
these are the jobs that are running. Okay. So what is that we did here? On my manager, I have set up my, what is that? On my manager, I have set up my secondary name node, then host monitor, event server, alert publisher, activity monitor, and reports manager, and your service monitor. All these are related to your Cloudera management service. Cloudera management service. You are following what I am saying here? Whatever you are seeing here, all these are, you want, you can make a note. What is that? All these are a part of your Cloudera management service. You have activity monitor, and then alert publisher, event server, host monitor, and then reports manager, then your service monitor. All these are the roles as part of your, all these are the roles as part of your Cloudera management service. You got the point?
Yes.
Now this is what I did on my manager. Okay, on master 1 I have set up my name node, and on my master 2 I have set up my resource manager. Of course, job history server and your Hue server. Okay, and then on my data nodes, you see what is been set up. I have set up my node manager commonly. I think you noticed here.
Yes.
On all the
And
four,
data
node
node.
manager, node manager, node manager, right? Data node,
Yes.
data node, data node, data node. See, other things are for a different purpose. As I need those services to be set up, I have set up on those, but it's not mandatory. Usually, we are going to have, and apart from this one, we also has got you noticed here
Yes. Hive gateway.
Hive gateway is been set up on everything. The accumular gateway also been set up on everything, right? So
Yes.
why we are setting up Hive gateway on every node? We'll see. Don't worry for that. But this is the, now this kind of imagination or picture should be in your mind before you set up. Make sense?
Yes.
So this picture, based, that is what been mentioned here. We need to have, yeah. So 1 second, we need to have, okay. So we need to have that plan in the mind, that what all the roles or services that needs to be set up on each host and how you work with those things, right? So for that sake only we are, yes, we have done this Cloudera manager setup. Once that is over, okay, now see here, how you create your, that one. You click on add cluster, you'll be able to get this one. Okay. And now, this is what the screenshot you have to accept the yes. So when you are adding the cluster to your Cloud Manager, so what is the first step that you come across? When you are adding the cluster to your Cloud Manager, what is the first step you come across?
To add your IP address and or fully qualified domain name.
We must be able to identify or recognize the hosts which are a part of that cluster, right? We need to identify the hosts which are going to be a part of that cluster. That is why we need to specify the hosts so that if that host is reachable, if that host is reachable, then you will be able to find that here and you can deploy the respective services onto those identified hosts. You got the point? That is why we are going to search those things. Now see here,
Yes.
what is the next screen you got? What is the next screen you get when you are doing this one? What all the IP addresses that you are given? 6 hosts are being scanned and 6 are running with SSH. So you know very well what are the prerequisites, how we came along the way here. I think you got that one,
Yeah.
right? The given hosts are being identified. Which hosts are being identified? You are going to see that one here. So currently managed, they are not being currently managed. The host is ready. So that what we do now, we are going to, I think you noticed here, we have two modes or two methods to set up your Hadoop cluster. One using your packages and the other one using the parcels. Parcels, working with the parcels is the recommended one because you see this life cycle. Have a look at this one. Yes. Look at all these phases, Vladan. Understand this one. Parcel, every parcel will have a life cycle. But when you do it with the packages will not have. That is why you can have multiple versions of the same product available within your Hadoop cluster if you are working on the parcels, but it is not possible when you are working with the packages. That is the reason why working with the parcels is the recommended. We will talk about it in a while, but look at this life cycle and try to understand that. You have seen the life cycle of the parcel. The parcel is available in the repository which you download. The parcel is now repository. I mean, which repository? The Cloudera repository, not our repository. From the Cloudera repository, you have downloaded the parcel and you have staged on the Cloudera manager server. I think now you might have noticed when you go to here, you might have what is that? Your CDH 5.11 is downloaded, distributed, and it is activated. You got the point?
Yes.
So you see, the other one is available remotely. It is the other one is available remotely. You want, you can click on download and download the parcel to the local repository. I think you understand from this life cycle, the parcel that is available in your remote repository, that is in with Cloudera, you're going to download that so that it is going to be staged on the Cloudera manager server, that is called CM server. If you want, you can delete that. Okay, I can go here and I can make this to be this is, you can make that to be deactivate and you can delete that one. That should not be a problem. Okay. The staged parcel on the local repository can be distributed to all the hosts. Okay. And the distributed thing to all the hosts can be made active by using activate option. Make sense, friends? Laden?
Yes. Yeah.
So, the beauty part of working with the parcels is, compared to that of packages, working with the parcel, you can make multiple versions of the same product available on the cluster. But that is not possible with your packages. That is why even if you can see that here, the screenshots what we are having. What is that? Choose the method, either use the packages or the parcels. The recommended way is working with the parcels. So what other things are needed that you can choose? How many steps are there? There are 7 steps here. I think you noticed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So what is the first step? What all the parcels that are needed for you, those parcels are going to be sent to all the hosts that you have chosen. Okay. And what is the next step? The JDK installation process happens, and here you are going to choose the single user mode. So what is the advantage of single user mode? We will see. Single user mode. And here, provide SSH login credentials. SSH login credentials. Then what is going to happen? The installation process is going to begin on the respective nodes. The installation process is going to begin on the respective nodes. Once everything is okay, I think you notice there is a change in the progress. You notice that if installation on any host fails for any reason, we can instruct to reinstall on the failed nodes. I think you see here, installation completed successfully on 39, node 39. You notice that one.
Yes.
So in all the things you see the green, then everything is fine. So what is happening now? What is happening now?
It's
The
downloading
selected parcels,
parcel.
yeah, are being
Parcel. Yeah.
downloaded and installed on all the hosts in the cluster. Now I think you are able to understand why internet is needed.
Yes.
So it has been downloaded, then distributed, then unpacked, and finally activated. Right? So
Yep.
every step of the installation is being shown to you here so that even tomorrow when you are setting up your own cluster, there should not be any trouble. Follow these steps and you'll be able to, of course, we are learning every point technically and trying to understand why that phase or why that step. Got it?
Yes.
So why? I mean, you may encounter a question compared to packages. Why parcels are recommended as part of your setup? You can say with parcels we have the option. That is the reason why I don't know whether you have seen here or not. 5.11.0-1 CDH. This is also available. You can make both available. You can click
Yeah,
on.
we have multiple version of the same product available. We can
Absolutely.
download it as needed. So we don't need them, but if you need them, we can download it with a one click.
You are absolutely right, Alan. We can have multiple versions of the same product available on the cluster as
But
part of the.
do you usually use one, right? So say like a one version, like
Yeah, that is true.
5.11.
That is true. But the possibility is there. You can make multiple versions of. You can make that possible with parcels.
Cloudera Manager.
With parcels.
But so if you wanna download, say this 5.11.2-1, you
Hmm.
would need to disable the bottom one, right?
Obviously. So we
Yeah.
should take that care only. We disable because there is no point maintaining multiple versions on the cluster. But this can be kept in the local repository. You can make
Yeah.
your multiple versions available in the local repository.
But
Okay.
which version are you going to use depends on other services. So everything has to be compatible.
Exactly.
Is that
Exactly.
is that's why you chosen 5.11.0, because it has to be compatible with all the other stuff.
True, 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 true. You're right. You're right.
Okay.
So once the parcel is been once the parcel is been downloaded, it is been distributed, it is been unpacked, and finally been activated on the selected host. Okay, I think you noticed here downloaded 100%, and finally distributed, and then unpacked. So in between, you may also get some errors. It's not necessary host in the bad health or whatever. So till you rectify those issues, it is not going to allow you to set up. So I have intentionally shown you here, even with an issue, so that you understand, right? So what is the next step now? Once everything is over, you see like this. Once it is been activated on all the hosts, you'll be seeing like that. You want, you can check the hosts. It's called host inspector. Using your host inspector, and these are different things that are happening in the background being logged to you. And finally, what is done? What is done? Your cluster is being set up, right?
Yep.
What is the next step?
Installing services. Which services do you want to
Absolutely,
install?
absolutely. So once the cluster is ready, see, cluster is not ready for usage. Cluster is only ready with the basic infrastructure setup. Okay, bringing the host into the cluster and deploying the respective um, parcels and all onto those machines. You're making that to be accessible now. Now, using this one, you should be able to set the services. I mean, you should be able to set up the services. What is required? I may choose Hadoop core. So that what happens? See this diagram. Choose a combination of services to install Core Hadoop with HBase, that is with Impala, Search, Spark, all services. Depending on what you need, you can choose a respective option and make those things. Yes, you got it?
Yes.
So, finally, this is what I have already shown you, right? We need to have a sketch. What services or roles you want to set up on the respective nodes. That is the reason why I told you, depending on the size of the cluster, you should have this in the mind in the beginning itself. Based on that only, we are going to install the respective services or roles on the respective hosts. I think you noticed here how HDFS needs to be set up, where the name node, where secondary node, and where your NFS gateways, data node. So those things are being chosen by you, view by host. So you can make use of the respective UI options to select whatever the host is. Because in the before step, I mean, I'm talking the major step. In the before step, we have searched the host, we have found the host, we have deployed the respective components on the host. Now those hosts are the part of integral part of the cluster. So on those hosts, we are going to set up all these services, right? Or the roles, services or the roles. Because in the previous step, you noticed that what you noticed, your your hosts are being identified. So when a host is being identified, that will be visible here, so that you can select that host and assign a particular role on that host. That is why in the before step only, your host needs to be identified, and the basic components from Cloudera Management Service are expected to be set up on those because communication is needed, right? Make sense, Laden?
Yes.
So, as an admin, your role is to identify which role or service needs to be set up on which host. You know very well what the resources you have for that. So, this entire thing is that one only. And you see here, this is important thing. So, where reports manager, how it is being set up, what is the database for that one, and the usernames, passwords for those things, all being. So you can always customize whatever are being shown here. Those things can be customized based on your customization only. The services are going to be set up. So with all that stuff, what is done? Your cluster is being set up properly, right? With all these things, your
Yes.
cluster is being set up properly. So even after setting up the cluster, what can be done? New hosts can be added and a new cloud management related services that are needed on the respective hosts are being deployed, and then you can deploy the other services like your data node and your node manager kind of things can be set up once you identify the hosts and bring them into the cluster, right? Any point of time, just bring them the new host into the cluster by identifying them, giving their IP addresses or your fully qualified domain name. Make sense?
Yes.
So this is end to end now. End to end. We have the complete understanding on the entire setup.